Good morning, everybody. Breaking news happening now, stretching from northern to southern California, where the fires have been deadly. In the north, the state's wine country is up in flames, with fires spreading rapidly overnight. At this time, 10 people are dead, 100 are missing. Good morning, everybody. Serious situation. The sun has yet to come up out there. As we say good morning and welcome to America's Newsroom. I'm Bill Hammer here, and Sandra, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Bill. I'm Sandra Smith. 14 different fires have reportedly consumed 1,500 homes and businesses. Right now, a news conference about to get underway on the Canyon fire. That one is burning near Orange County. This is near Los Angeles. State of emergencies declared in several counties there. Thousands being evacuated from their homes. Fire and rescue crews doing everything that they can do to get people out.
We're not out of the woods yet. All of the evacuation zones remain evacuated. We empathize with you. We know it's difficult for you to be out of your homes, but we need you there out of your homes for your safety.
We're trying to salvage what's going to be up in flames here. It's like pretty soon, so all these nice people, don't know them. They've all chipped in. We got most of our valuables out that I can think of. I'm in shock right now.
It kind of sounds crazy, but it's your house. So we've been going up and down the street, putting out several little fires in other people's front yards, just trying to save the neighborhood.
Did my best on this one to try to just with the garden hose, but the flames are just too much.
The sad state of affairs for the state to see that, to see people's property and lives be affected by that.
So in the north, the fires cover a 200-mile region from Napa Valley to Redding, California, and the Governor Jerry Brown declaring a state of emergency in Napa, Sonoma, and Yuba counties. The Vice President, Mike Pence, in California, offering this support.
I want to say to the people of California and all of those that are in the path of these advancing wildfires that we are with you, we are standing with you, and the American people will have the communities that are affected in our thoughts and in our prayers in the days ahead.
So let's begin our coverage in Northern California, Napa Valley. Adam Housley is live there this morning before the sun comes up in about an hour, hour and a half from now. And what are conditions like there and overnight, Adam?
Yeah, Bill, it really depends on where you're looking in Northern California. We got, 15 separate fires burning up here, as you mentioned, all the way from over in the Sacramento Valley, basically almost to the coast, if you count where Sonoma County's fires are burning. The good news is there's no wind here right now, which is really helping firefighters get a handle on the situation. It's been about 12 hours since we had significant winds in this area. I'm told over towards Sacramento there's a little more wind over there with some of the fires they're battling, but it's really about battling the wind and keeping those fires from getting into any more homes. I had a chance to get out with and take some video earlier before nightfall last night, and ran across a crew, two crews actually, one from Santa Cruz, California, about 2 hours south of here, one from Maddow Fire, which is about 30 miles from here. Two crews don't know each other, basically came together here in the valley to battle and keep flames away from a home. And as the firefighters will tell you, it's a difficult situation because of the fire, but also not knowing the area. Take a listen.
Makes it difficult for us. We've got to get into areas that we don't really know, we never see on a daily basis, and we have to plan accordingly. So we go along the houses and we take a look at them before the fire gets there, and we decide which houses we're going to be able to save based on the preparation that the owners do, and we prep and go from there.
Right now, the latest number is 1,500 different buildings that have been destroyed. That number is going to go up, Bill, as they get a chance to get into some more of these areas.
Unfortunately, I think you're right about that. When you think about how bad the destruction is, what sort of measure have you gotten on that? What is that structure behind you, Adam?
Behind me, this is Signorello Winery, which is on Silverado Trail, basically one of the part of the wine trail here in Napa Valley. As you can see, it is completely destroyed. Basically blew up last night. My brother said he watched it burn to the ground. My family's house is just down the hill from here. But if you head down the trail and over into Santa Rosa as well, there's a number of different neighborhoods, Bill, where the fire burned into them. Santa Rosa's got it really bad. Some of the hospitals had to be evacuated there. You got some video of the country club area, Silverado Country Club area here in Napa. What's significant about that is just a couple of hours before the fire roared through there, they had the PGA golf tournament. So you had thousands of people in town for that. And literally 2 hours later, here comes a fire that burned down probably several hundred homes there. It's just unbelievable, the destruction and how fast that fire moved. We don't get winds like this up here, Bill, in Northern California. And when you add it to those flames and that fire, or these fires, I should say, it was impossible to stop.
Yeah, indeed. Adam, thank you. It's great to be there. Best to you and your family during the recovery process. Northern California is one spot. Southern California is getting hit too, but there should be a press conference from the South coming up shortly here. Adam, thank you. And Napa leading our coverage today.
Las Vegas police making a major change to their timeline, now saying the gunman shot that security guard 6 minutes before the massacre. They say he aimed at fuel tanks, stockpiled explosives, and had protective gear. Despite all of this, authorities are now still piecing together Stephen Paddock's motive.
Every piece of information we get is one more piece of the puzzle in this case. And currently, we do not believe there is one particular event in the suspect's life for us to key on. I am frustrated at the speed of this investigation. Yes, I am. It isn't because nobody is not doing their job. It's because this individual purposely hid his actions leading up to this event, and it is difficult for us to find the answers to those actions.
Dan Springer live in Las Vegas with the latest. Dan?
Yeah, and we learned in that news conference yesterday, Sandra, that the timeline has moved up 6 minutes for when this massacre began. All along, we were told that it began at 10:05 p.m. Sunday night. But come to find out yesterday in the news conference that the very first shots were fired at 9:59, not down at the crowd below at the Mandalay Bay, but at a security guard who happened to be responding to an open door alarm on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. That security guard's name was Jesus Campos. He was responding to an alarm, and while he was up there in the hallway, he heard what he thought was drilling sound. So it's very possible that what he was responding to was an alarm, and what he heard was the attacker prepping for his attack. And what he did then was he got close to the door. The shooter saw him through the door with all his security cameras, and he fired 200 rounds at Campos. Campos was injured, but then after that, Campos apparently saved the life of a colleague who was also in that same hallway. Listen.
Immediately upon being injured, notified security of his situation. In close proximity of Mr. Campos being shot, there was also a maintenance worker that presented himself on the 32nd floor, and Mr. Campos prevented him from receiving any injuries.
So the significance of that is Campos was able to alert all of his colleagues down in the hotel and the police exactly where the shots were coming from, and of course that 11 minutes after that of hell from that 32nd floor.
Yeah.
Sandra?
All right, the timeline is changing. Dan Springer, thank you.
Okay.
Another Fox News alert now from the West Wing. President Trump weighing in on policy across the board, tweeting this. Since Congress can't get its act together in health care, I'll be using the power of the pen to give great health care to many people fast. Here's another one on immigration. The problem with agreeing to a policy on immigration is that the Democrats don't want secure borders. They don't care about safety for the USA. So two things, health care, immigration. Guy Benson take on both. Fox News contributor, townhall.com. Guy, good morning to you.
Hey, Bill.
I guess you could change a little bit on health care with an executive order, right? But I don't think you're going to get DACA or any immigration deal unless you get more border security. That's a demand.
Correct. So let's start with health care. I saw that tweet this morning and started stroking my chin, trying to figure out exactly what he's referring to, the president, because when you think about various opportunities he has to use executive orders on health care, we're talking about maybe rescinding the congressional exemption, perhaps undoing the unsubsidized cost-sharing subsidies that were never actually allocated by Congress. But in this case, I saw Senator Rand Paul retweet the president and say this is something he's been working with the White House on for months at this point. And it could be that the president is getting ready to roll out an executive order along the lines of allowing various trade associations and organizations to band together to purchase insurance, perhaps free from or apart from Obamacare's regulatory regime, possibly across state lines. We'll see if it's constitutional. That should be a big sticking point for Senator Paul. But that could be what we're looking at in the next day or so.
Very interesting. We'll track and follow that. Take you back to yesterday. Lindsey Graham went golfing with the president. And afterwards, he tweeted this. Really enjoyed a round of golf with President Trump today. President Trump shot a 73 in windy and wet conditions. That it was on the East Coast. How bad did he beat me? I did better in the presidential race than today on the golf course. Great fun, great host. Lindsey Graham's got a great sense of humor. What's with the bromance here?
Well, I think Senator Graham is someone who is seeking solutions on Capitol Hill. He was the co-author of Graham Cassidy, the health care bill that failed. He's also a big supporter of the DREAM Act, I would point out. That goes back to your previous question, Bill, dealing with the immigration question, because what we saw yesterday was a whole list of new demands, some of them were new, from the White House regarding immigration policy on the enforcement side that the White House apparently wants the Democrats to agree to in order to get this DACA program actually codified in a legal way. I suspect that Senator Graham is doing what politicians do, glad-handing and dealing with the audience that he hopes to persuade, in this case the president, and probably discussing a number of policy issues. I'm also suspicious of that 73 number.
Well,
that's very impressive.
I'll leave that to you, right? An honest game. I wonder what John McCain thinks of this. Guy Benson, thanks to you. They're live in Washington, D.C., instant analysis and all of that. A lot of tweets rolling out so far this morning, too. Some comments about Bob Corker. I'd take a 73.
I would take it any day. You kidding me?
Sometimes for 9 holes, take a 73.
Oh, Lord, that would be fun. All right, still to come, America's Newsroom, a power-packed political lineup, including Mike Huckabee, Newt Gingrich, and Ari Fleischer joining us. Plus, there's this.
As a criminal law enforcement officer, I can tell you that criminal aliens are a threat not only to public safety, but to national security. We got to enforce the laws. The men and women at ICE are doing it in a professional manner.
So that is Thomas Homan. He's the acting director of ICE. In a moment, he'll talk through the immigration plan and the latest push for increased border security and the efforts to crack down on sanctuary cities. Don't miss that. Coming up next.
And new fallout over Harvey Weinstein's firing after allegations of sexual harassment. Why Republicans are now taking aim at Hillary Clinton and other Democrats over their donations to the famous producer.
He is a wonderful human being, a good friend, and just a powerhouse.
This is a very complicated issue that needs a long-term congressional fix. I personally am of the opinion, and the president has stated this, that we have to figure out a good solution that protects these innocent people, many of whom were brought to this country as children.
So that this week, Ivanka Trump talking about the immigration matter. This after President Trump early last month announced the end of DACA and gave Congress until March to consider a new law for dreamers. 800,000 dreamers. In the meantime, there are big questions about sanctuary cities. Thomas Homan, acting director, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE, with us here today, I should say. And Mr. Director, good morning to you, and thank you for your time.
Good morning, sir.
California is a sanctuary state. How does that affect the job you do, sir?
It makes our job almost impossible. I mean, sanctuary cities is an attack on the very foundation of what this country is built upon, the foundation of laws. Sanctuary cities are accomplishing a lot of things, but none of them very good. First of all, it's enticing more people to come to this country illegally, to violate the laws of this country. It's bankrolling the very criminal organizations that smuggle these people into the country. That's a big sales pitch. Let me smuggle you into the United States, we'll get you to Los Angeles, and you'll be protected by local authorities. Bankrolling this very criminal organization that smuggle weapons and smuggle people that want to do bad things to this country. But the most important thing they do is they intentionally release public safety threats back in the community. That is a severe threat against public safety. It's a threat against my law enforcement officers. Rather than taking custody of a significant criminal in the safety and security and privacy of a county jail, we have to go knock on a door.
Wow.
I've got 52 names of dead officers on that memorial wall. Wow. We don't need one more.
Just so viewers understand, the policy is if you arrest someone, you notify the federal government, then you make a decision as to how to proceed with a man or woman after that. The governor of California disagrees with everything you just said. Jerry Brown made this statement. This bill does not prevent or prohibit Immigration and Customs Enforcement or the Department of Homeland Security from doing their own work in any way. Why is he wrong?
He ought to read his bill. The bill is clearly says, number one, local law enforcement cannot ask any immigration questions. They can honor our detainers when we ask them to hold a significant criminal till we can come pick him up, to make sure he don't get released in the community. It also refuses to them even notify us when that person will be released so we can be there to take custody of them. It also limits our detention authority on states and local jurisdictions supplying us with beds, us buying detention beds from them, which means when I arrest those people, we're going to have to move them out of the state at great taxpayer expense. So I would suggest the governor read his bill.
Well, can you get around that?
Look, they can call themselves a sanctuary city. There is no sanctuary from federal law enforcement. We're going to enforce the law.
Under the Obama administration, it appeared their focus was to go after illegals with a criminal record. And critics of this administration have talked about an overreach and abuse, meaning you're going after any immigrants. To those critics, how would you respond, sir?
First of all, our end of the year numbers being rolled up now, we still prioritize those criminal aliens. And our arrest of criminal aliens is far above what it was last year. But for those who enter this country illegally, they have committed a crime. Let's not forget that. We're enforcing the laws that Congress enacted. We prioritize those that are public safety threats and national security threats, but we took an oath to enforce the immigration laws of this country, and that's what we're doing. To enter this country illegally is a crime. We can't forget that. That's a message that's been lost in the last decade.
Well, MS-13 is a gang out of El Salvador. They grow in great numbers now here in the U.S., especially Long Island, New York, where, in fact, you are from, I do believe. You said this summer that our gang is bigger. What evidence do you have that MS-13 has been affected by your crackdown?
MS-13, they're active in over 40 states in this country based on our intelligence. Our gang is bigger than their gang. We got 120,000 federal law enforcement officers that's targeting MS-13. We're having a significant impact on MS-13. We're not looking just to arrest them and deport them to the United States and after they serve their time in prison. We're going to dismantle this organization. We're going to dismantle them at the command and control structure in El Salvador. We're working closely with our partners in El Salvador. We're going to take them in El Salvador. We're going to take them in the United States. We're going to arrest every member, any associate, any leader the gang has. We're going to dismantle this organization.
I have 15 seconds left. Maybe you get a DACA deal, maybe you don't. Maybe you get the wall, maybe you don't. Can you tell us how the wall would make your job better?
It's when we talk about sanctuary cities, they're suing the administration because they're afraid they're going to lose funding from the DOJ. Sanctuary cities don't want to fund a border wall to keep illegal aliens out, but they want to fund sanctuary cities to keep illegal aliens in. That's backwards, in my opinion. The border wall is a good tool. It worked in San Diego. It worked in El Paso. It worked in Yuma. We've proven it worked. Why would we not want to do it?
Sir, thank you for your time. That's Thomas Homan, Director at ICE. Please come on back, sir.
Got it. Thank you.
When you're ready. Thank you. Sandra.
U.S. officials issuing a new warning from North Korea. Why the rogue regime could be gearing up for another nuclear test. And why Secretary Mattis is warning U.S. forces to be ready. Ambassador John Bolton here next. Plus, Donald Trump's first wife, Ivana, opening up about her relationship with Melania and why she turned down a job in the Trump administration.
If you would ask me 10, 15 years ago, I would do it. But now I don't want to be in Prague for 4 years. Could I do well? Yes. But I would lose my freedom.
There's one thing the U.S. Army can do, and that is you have got to be ready to ensure that we have military options that our president can employ if needed.
That was Defense Secretary James Mattis telling the U.S. Army to be ready with military options to use against North Korea as the world awaits to see the next move out of the rogue regime. Joining me now, former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, John Bolton. Certainly a strong and new warning coming from U.S. officials, Ambassador Bolton, to be ready. Why?
Well, this is hardly a mobilization order, and I think actually if we were to do a preemptive military strike against North Korea's nuclear program, it would be through the Air Force and the Navy. And there hasn't been any indication we're really getting ready for that. So I'm not sure there's much that's new here other than the acknowledgement that the military option in this administration is serious, as it has to be. North Korea is making very rapid progress toward having a deliverable nuclear weapons capability, and the decision for the United States is whether we're going to let that happen. The president was very clear in his UN speech a couple of weeks ago that denuclearization of North Korea is the only way forward.
Is North Korea gearing up for another nuclear test?
Well, you know, you don't know. There's our intelligence from inside North Korea is really very bad. So in terms of another nuclear test, another missile test, really it's all a matter of speculation around anniversary dates in North Korea. We'll know it when it happens is about the best you can say. And that's part of the problem. That's one of the reasons that the threat North Korea poses is so serious.
You know, in this same speech, speaking to the Association of the United States Army Convention in Washington, where we heard from Defense Secretary Mattis, he was also critical of Iran without actually mentioning Iran by name, saying one state sponsor of terror in the Mideast cannot hide behind its nation-state status, while in effect it is actually a destabilizing revolutionary regime. There is a very important deadline coming up, Ambassador, when it comes to Iran and recertifying this deal. What is the president's next move?
Well, we can only know from press speculation at this point, but I think the anniversary will turn out to be a nothing burger. If the president follows the advice of his senior advisors, as the press reports, Senator Corker, perhaps this Thursday in a speech he's scheduled to give where he will decertify under Corker-Cardin, he'll say the deal is not in America's national interest, but he will stay in it. I find this utterly illogical because I think the day after that speech will be essentially where we are now. The Obama deal will continue in force, although now it will be the Trump-Obama deal.
So you're suggesting that the president is going to stay in the deal. He doesn't like it. He says it's the worst deal he's ever seen. He wants to tear it up. But you're saying that he's going to go off the recommendation of those around him. Mattis has said stay in it. This is the best for our national security. General Dunford has suggested staying in it. So is he just listening to those he has put around him?
Well, apparently that's what all of his senior advisors are telling him. I think if you come to the conclusion this deal is not in America's national interest, just as George W. Bush did in 2001 when he concluded that the anti-ballistic missile treaty harmed the United States by not being able to create national missile defense. If you think a treaty is contrary to American national interest, there's only one logical thing to do, and that's flatly withdraw. And that's what I hope President Trump does.
In this same moment where he has to make this big decision, Ambassador, President Trump will also, it is expected, to designate its elite Revolutionary Guards, the IRGC, as a terrorist organization. Iran has responded to this, saying that it will keep all options on the table if the president does that. That is news breaking this morning as well.
Right. Well, we should have designated the IRGC as a terrorist organization about 20 years ago or more. It clearly is. It's responsible for the deaths of literally hundreds of Americans, basically starting back with the bombing of the Marine barracks in Beirut in 1983 and continuing in many ways since then. Look, Iran will huff and puff if we designate the Revolutionary Guards as a terrorist group. They'll complain to the Europeans. The Europeans will wring their hands. They'll complain to the State Department. The State Department will wring its hands. But Iran will not withdraw from the nuclear deal if we do it, because this deal is so overwhelmingly advantageous to Iran. They're never going to withdraw from it, and I don't think they're going to consent to any changes in it in any material sense as well.
Ambassador Bolton, good to check in with you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that national debate raging over the weekend on the national anthem, and are we getting brand new reaction from President Trump after several media outlets accused the VP, Mike Pence, of pulling a stunt when he walked out of that game in Indianapolis on Sunday. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee weighs in on that in a moment. Plus, a movie mogul accused of decades of sexual harassment is now without a company. Why top Democrats are under increasing scrutiny for having accepted tens of thousands of dollars in donations from Harvey Weinstein.
He and I have been friends for a very, very long time. He's amazingly talented, but he's also amazingly charitable. Harvey, I'm proud to know you.
.933 here in New York. A few moments ago during the commercial break, the bell ringing on this second trading day of the week for the stock market. The Dow up again. I mean, where's it going, Smitty? I mean, holy
it's
cow.
Up and away.
I mean, where she stops, nobody knows. Up about 56 points already in the first couple of minutes. So now we're looking at Dow 23,000. And it was just a few months ago we were thinking Dow 22,000. And if we go there, Smitty, we're talking 5,000 points. since early November in the election of Donald Trump. That's an extraordinary move that you may not see for another generation.
And he claims a lot of the credit for that.
Daily.
The president does. Daily. All right. Well, President Trump, speaking of which, showing his appreciation to Jerry Jones after the Cowboys owner told his players to stand for the anthem or don't play at all. The president tweeting this. A big salute to Jerry Jones, owner of the Dallas Cowboys, who will bench players who disrespect our flag. Stand for anthem or sit for game. Joining me now is Mike Huckabee, former Arkansas governor and Fox News contributor. Governor, good to see you. I'll bet you agree with that message, knowing you.
Well, not only because I think it's the right message, but because I'm a Cowboys fan. So, yes, I think it was brilliant on the part of Jerry Jones. By the way, Sandra, I'm going to have to cut this short because I've got to call my stockbroker with the Dow looking like that. Just understand. No, look, I'm very proud of Jerry Jones. I think it took a lot of guts. Finally, somebody in the NFL recognizes that they are turning off their fans. Their TV ratings are plummeting. Sales of merchandise is falling. I don't know how dumb they can be. This is a football game. Play the game. If you want to get involved in politics, get your name on the ballot, run for office, or if you want to make a speech, go out to the speech circuit. That's fine. But when you go to work, do your job, and your job is to play football, and these guys need to get that through their sometimes rather banged about heads.
You know, Governor, the president it's been one of those mornings. He has been very busy tweeting out his thoughts on various subjects this morning. The latest tweet responding to Bob Corker and his recent criticism of the president. The President Trump tweeting this just a few moments ago. The failing at New York Times set little Bob Corker up by recording his conversation, was made to sound a fool, and that's what I'm dealing with. So criticism of the media as well.
You wonder, when will people understand that when you attack Donald Trump, he's not going to just benignly sit by and look the other way? I mean, all of us who were on the stage with him during the presidential campaign figured that out pretty quickly, though some didn't learn their lesson until they were reduced to a pile of ashes. Some of us actually looked around and said, you know, I may not beat the guy, but I'm not going to be stupid enough to have him turn me into used pulp. And that's what happens. Donald Trump is a fighter. Now, the good news is for Americans, and I know a lot of people say, I wish he wouldn't do that. Okay, fine. Wished he wouldn't do that. But here's what people need to realize. The same Donald Trump that will fight a Bob Corker over what I thought were Corker's absurd and unfortunate remarks toward the President of the United States is that this is a president who will fight for them. He will fight for their jobs. He will fight for their future. He will fight for their border and their defense. And that's why, despite all of the hand-wringing by the people on the left, there's still going to be an enormous number of Americans who say, okay, so he's a little rough around the edges, but he's rough on my account, and that's why people are still supporting it.
You know, Vice President Mike Pence has also weighed in. He's put out a statement. This is after Corker's remarks, but it's not necessarily in response to. This is a portion of it, Governor Huckabee. While critics engage in empty rhetoric and baseless attacks under the president's leadership, ISIS is on the run, North Korea is isolated like never before, and our NATO allies are doing more to pay their fair share for our common defense. So clearly, this is a statement being put out by the vice president to say, look, this president isn't sitting on his tail. He is getting a lot done. Here's evidence of it.
I think that's great. And in addition to that, look at the stock market. You guys just reported it's at a record high. It keeps climbing. That means that people's retirement funds, we're talking about retired cops and teachers, their retirement funds are better off than they were back before November. 800 regulations lost. Which means businesses have a lot more freedom to hire people and to put people to work. We also are looking at the record low unemployment numbers over the past 17 years. I mean, there's a lot of things to be talking about, but unfortunately, a lot of the people in the national media, all they want to talk about is what the president tweeted, not what he's accomplished, and that's unfortunate.
But that's a big part of it, right? We know how aggressive the agenda is that this president has on the table right now and how much he is promising is going to get done as that stock market rises. Tax reform is key. Time is running out. The clock is ticking, Governor. In one of his tweets this morning, just a few hours ago, the president said, since Congress can't get its act together on health care, I will be using the power of the pen to give great health care to many people fast. There are very big deadlines approaching for this president.
Well, the GOP, both in the House and the Senate, and I think more so the Senate, because the House has actually gotten a lot of things passed, sent to the Senate, which has become the graveyard of all legislation. But the Senate needs to pull their heads out, and I'll leave it at that, and get in the game and recognize that they have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to cut taxes, reform health care, change our job situation, make employment something that can be valued and give people real wages again. But if they're sitting around with their feelings hurt because the president said something that bothered them, then take a rattle, get in the crib, shake it a little bit. For God's sake, get out of the Senate and let some adults come in there who aren't so offended by everything the president tweets, but do the job.
All right, well, it has been a busy morning for the president, from the NFL to healthcare to Bob Corker. He's been tweeting away. Governor, we'll let you get back to your stock picks because that market keeps going up. Thanks for joining us.
Pass along if you win, Governor. I'm a big Bengals fan, as you know. I have suffered through thick and thin my entire life. But I thought 2 weeks ago the statement that came out from the team was right on point. Politics and football don't mix easily. Fans come to games to watch great competition on the field, and that's where our focus should be.
I think the NFL's learning that the hard way, though.
Yeah, and I think also, Sandy, I agree with you. And I think as every week goes by, you will see less and less of this. And there was none of that last night in Chicago when the Vikings and Bears played. So you're...
Go Bears.
There's a trend.
Now you know my team.
Yes, I do. Hometown girl. Some Democrats now speaking out, denouncing one of the party's biggest donors over this sex scandal. But what about the political donations? And there are many. Where is Hillary Clinton on this issue? When does she respond? Our panel debates all of this next.
Plus, Melania Trump hitting back after President Trump's first wife, Ivana, called herself First Lady in an interview.
The text, the last thing what I would like to do is to say something bad about you, you know, because you are a family. And I don't say anything bad or do anything back to the family member.
First Lady Melania Trump issuing a statement responding to Ivana Trump after she said she was basically the real First Lady since she was married to the president first. Melania clearing the air, saying there is clearly no substance to this statement from an ex. Ivana going one-on-one with Ainsley Earhart to talk more about all of that.
Do you ever look at his position and Melania being the First Lady and think that's where I should be?
Not at all.
Why?
Washington is tough town. I was asked to be American ambassador. If you would ask me 10, 15 years ago, I would do it. But I'm glad that Melania is there and I'm here.
A very candid moment there. As for Melania, her spokesperson says she is very happy living in Washington and that she hasn't made a home there for the president and their son, Barron.
Might have let that comment just go to the side. Okay. Might have taken a pass.
We'll leave it there.
15 minutes out before the hour.
If you really stand for what you say you do, if you stand for women's rights, if you are champions of women, give his money back. Where's Hillary Clinton? Where's she standing on this issue? She's been silent. Her silence is deafening.
Chair of the RNC, Ronna McDaniel, blasting Hillary Clinton for not denouncing Harvey Weinstein. He's given a lot of money to Democrats dating back to 1992 and Bill Clinton, now accused of sexually harassing women for decades. Explosive story here. Rich Lowry, editor for National Review, Fox News contributor. Adrian Elrod, former Democrat for Strategic Communications for Hillary Clinton. And good day to both of you.
Good morning,
These are the numbers we found from our brain room, okay? Harvey Weinstein's political contributions, Hillary Clinton, 43,000 plus. Hillary PAC, 15 grand. Obama Victory Fund, 56,000. DNC, 97,000. That does not include, apparently, the Clinton Foundation, Adrian, upwards of $250,000, not confirmed, but the dollar figure falls between $100,000 and $250,000. Should this money be returned, or should they do what Chuck Schumer has done and give it to charity organizations looking for money that needs it?
Look, first of all, I find it absolutely laughable that Republicans are even raising this issue and trying to politicize this against Democrats, given who they elected president of the United States. If we're going to go on the same model and compare 2 and 2, then are Republicans going to return the millions of dollars that Donald Trump raised for Republican Party committees and for other candidates? But moving forward,
but this is not a debate about President Trump. This is a debate about Democrats taking money for decades from Harvey Weinstein and giving him access. Again,
correct.
The question,
and you are seeing, and you are
give the money back.
You are seeing a lot of Democrats giving their money back. Kamala Harris, I believe Chuck Schumer donating some of Harvey Weinstein or all of Harvey Weinstein's donations that he made to them to charity. But, you know, look, in terms of Hillary Clinton speaking out on this, if and when she is asked about it, of course she will denounce this inexcusable behavior by Harvey Weinstein. But I find
there is Twitter. I mean, that's 24/7.
Well, look, I also want to make it clear that, you know, when Hillary Clinton comes out and speaks her mind, she gets criticized for that. Like, oh, she should go away. She shouldn't take up oxygen in the public space. I think she'd be complimented if
she spoke up on this, and I think you can agree on that.
And I'm sure when she's asked about it, she will.
She doesn't have to be asked about it. She has a computer, right? She has a phone.
Yes,
she can do whatever she wants, but she has yet to weigh in on it. Donald Trump Jr. says the following: weird. Hillary has been really quiet about Harvey Weinstein. You would think she would be all over this. What happened? All right, Rich, your turn.
It is weird. I mean, Hillary Clinton doesn't have to be invited to comment on most things. She comments on things all the time, unbidden. And if the Democratic Party and the left and Hillary Clinton are serious about the standards they set out as feminists, they should denounce Harvey Weinstein and they should give the money back. The hypocrisy is just incredible here, where they set out certain standards that they apply to people they don't like in order to attack them, but then when they become inconvenient for themselves, then they're forgotten or excuses are made. And let's not forget, the elder statesman of the Democratic Party, Bill Clinton, is a man who spent his entire adult life trampling on every single feminist norm, and everyone forgets it and doesn't care because he's on the right side politically.
We found this in the Hollywood Reporter today. Apparently, Weinstein was emailing executives across Hollywood. I don't know what the date is on this, but it says, I could really use your support or just your honesty if you can support me. He was looking for cover at the very end, Adrian, and people were running
look,
away.
I mean, this is the way, I mean, first of all, it's inexcusable what he did. We all know that. The way he's handled this has been pathetic, to say the least. But again, for Republicans to use this as an attack against Democrats, given who they elected president of the United States, given all the women who came forward during the campaign, you couldn't even keep up with the number of women who came up.
I heard your point earlier. I heard it again. Rich, final thought, 5 seconds. We got to roll.
Well, look, this was a story that everyone knew about. It's kind of a scandal of Hollywood and the elite media that so many people knew about this, had experienced it themselves personally, but didn't say or do anything because he was so powerful. They feared him, and he was also a supporter of fashionable causes, so no one wanted to try to take him down.
It appears to be the case. Rich, Adrian, thanks to both of you today.
Thanks, Bill.
You bet. Sandra.
A Texas student accused of shooting a police officer to death on campus. Details on the suspect's motives next.